Hello, guys, and welcome to a new rant by Stormy the Demon. Okay, so I am recording this in May 2027. So recently, at that point, there were a couple of huge Russian air attacks on Ukraine. And that got me thinking about something that, well, I always keep saying this, but I think I want to articulate and see what the title is that Russia can't win this war. I don't mean that in a propaganda way or like Ukrainians are great. No, I mean logistically and logistically, mentally and realistically, they can't win the way they want to. Because what is Russia's goal in the war exactly? Is it that they want to get rid of the Ukrainian military? Is it that they want to get rid of the core Ukrainian government? Is it that they want to take over all of Ukraine and combine with Belarus that they already control? Because it is those three elements, those three things, because the whole NATO expansion bullcrap is not true in the slightest. They don't even believe that. They just use an excuse to idiots. If it's the the Russian speakers are oppressed, that's utterly a lie. They kill them all the time, and we all know that they've killed hundreds of thousands of Russian speakers during this entire war itself. So that's a complete other lie. But if it's just those three things, the destruction of the military, the taking down the government, and taking over Ukraine to combine it with Belarus, they are completely failed in all three of those main goals. Gonna start with it. If they want to take down the Ukrainian military, they're doing a horrific job at it. They're doing a terrible job at it. All they're doing are just attacking in human wave attacks, while Ukrainians are defending. And and some of you might say, oh, but what about America with Canada? You don't realize that they had a complete supremacy of basically everything, right? That's why the Iraqi casualties were huge. Russia doesn't have that. Even have that. They're not able for every five Ukrainians that they're able to kill, 20 or even 30 of them die in an assault, or even more, depending on how big the attacks are. Now, they don't do the human waves like in World War One, but they do human waves in the sense that they send hundreds of small groups of men and 3 to 5 men to to attack a single place. Most of them die, and some of them live. This is the thing that the Russian Vatniks, like history legends, and even people who should know better but don't really like Mark Takas don't talk about. Because it isn't that they just attack a place and just take it. It takes months for them to take a place, or even weeks. Because I've noticed some, because even history legends videos, people are not liking his videos anymore. You want to know why? Because he's trying to say that taking a square meter of territory is somehow a big win. His recent video in this right now is that, oh, the unstoppable advance, and then he says 10 kilometers. 10 kilometers in over 5 months of fighting. How can you say that's unstoppable? They've gone nowhere. You can barely even know what's on the map. They're nowhere near Le Mans still. They still haven't taken over all of the Hans. Like, honestly, okay, I maybe that is the fact that it's clickbait, but it's still like, this is how it's agreed to. These guys were talking about, oh, Ukraine's gonna fall any day now. They're rushing at the gates of Kiev. And now they're trying to act like an advance of the maximum of 10 kilometers is somehow a great victory, and not accepting that is the point of just how bad things are for the Russians. Because is this what you want the Russians to be praised for? 10? But most of the time it's not even 10. It's like 1 kilometer at best in a month after losing an entire battalion or three more to take this ground that they should have taken months ago. They still have not taken Pokrovsk. They don't have Kherson. They don't have Kharkiv. They still don't have Sumy. How are we still in this thing that we're acting like what Russia's doing is a big thing, and they're not. Now, two, it's the idea that they want to get rid of the Ukrainian government. That's never gonna happen. And even if they try to put up a Russian puppet, that's never gonna happen either. They got rid of the last one. I don't think they're gonna have any hopes of doing it again the second time. And even if that's, and now we go to the third one of taking over the country. Now you guys may say, "Oh, but they want Chechnya." Let's preface that with a huge asterisk, with that Chechnya was isolated and was small. It was even smaller than Afghanistan. And the Soviet Union, the actual superpower, not Russia, lost to the to the Mujahideen after 8 years. That was a smaller country, but it was a bit bigger than Chechnya. If they haven't had so much fun with Chechnya that took them like 8 or 7 years or more to even take down, what hopes would they have against Ukraine? Even if they did, because they're not never going to. But even if they somehow control of Ukraine, they're going to have to deal with a guerrilla war that would make Afghanistan and Chechnya look like a joke. And it's worse because the Ukrainians can get their supplies of weapons from the European countries. But again, that isn't going to happen because the Russian military is so incompetent and and badly beaten that they can't even advance that far. They're not advancing Zaporizhia. They, even in the Donbass area, it's a crawl, like a complete and utter crawl. Now you could say, "Oh, they're advancing," but I always want to say, put a huge asterisk. How long are they advancing? Because if we're comparing it to World War II or even World War One, it's pathetic. Look look at this and the Russian summer offensive by Brusilov, the Brusilov offensive. They took hundred square miles of kilometers against the Austro-Hungarians, and nearly wiped out the Austro-Hungarian army in the east. The Russians can't even do that after 3 years. Like, you would think after 3 years of this that we would stop saying that Russia is unstoppable or they're gonna win the war any day now. They can't. This is okay. The main point of this, they can't win the war now because they had one chance to do it. What was that chance? February 2022. I was working in an intern job when the war started. I thought, and most other people thought, that Ukraine was going to be taken over by Russia or put a Russian puppet there, and they're going to be a huge guerrilla war. That's what we all thought. 3 months in, they got kicked out of the north. And then later on, they lost a Kherson and they lost a Kharkiv. Yeah, the Zaporizhia thing didn't work out, but the Russians haven't done much better. In fact, much better. And those places like Bakhmut and Mario and Avdiivka, those are towns. Well, right now towns that are not even uninhabitable, but just towns. They're not cities. They're not Kherson. They lost Kherson. Even with the curse attack, that thing did better than it had any right to. And it took the Russians 7 to 8 months to even kick them out. And even then, it was due to help from the Republicans again, like it was Avdiivka. Because in Avdiivka, the Ukrainians not going to say the F word, got S over by the Americans delaying their aid. And in Kursk, the Americans cut off their intelligence that gave the Russians their window of opportunity to drive the Ukrainians back. They got screwed over twice by MAGA. Notice how both of those times it wasn't due to Russian will or anything. It was basically due to Ukraine not having a certain thing that allowed them to get what they want. But even then, that's not really massive victories. They haven't destroyed whole Ukrainian armies. They just damaged a couple battalions or brigades. But destroyed them? No, they've never been able to. Because look back on the Busila offensive. Look back on the Operation Bagration. You see how, and you look, I see how the Russian army of today is not even a shadow of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was something to be feared. The Russians now, not much. We're 3 years into this. We're 3 years into this war, and now they're gonna do another offensive. Offensive. Is it gonna be in the north? Is it gonna be in the south? We don't know. But we all know it's gonna be slaughter. They're gonna destroy the army even further. Further. And also they're gonna destroy the rest of the army they have left. That left in the front. And it's not gonna end the war. They're not gonna get what they want. They're not gonna get the full oblast they want. And even if they attack in Sumy, they're just going to be stopped in, like in Kharkiv, short from the city, and it's just going to be another meat grinder. Because that's what happened in the second Kharkiv attack. They got stopped way short of their objective, and they basically achieved nothing. I made this because I feel that this is a thing that has to be said. Russia can't win this war. They had a China 2022, but they had the professional military and the gates of it, and they couldn't do it. Why is it that all of a sudden 3 years into this, now all of a sudden they're somehow going to? That makes no sense to me. Does it have to take 2026 to now people be like, okay, maybe the Russians can't win this? And now someone like Willie Ohm is going to be like, oh, but the Russians are good at attritional warfare. The Russians today, no. The Soviet Union, yes, but due to circumstances, because the Soviet Union had vassal states to fill up its numbers. In fact, more Ukrainians died in World War II than Russians in World War II. It was Ukrainian blood that gave them victory, and other countries that gave them victory, not Russian. So not that myth is not even true. The Russians still have not mobilized because it's not a war of defense. It's a war of imperialism, and imperialistic wars are not exactly motivators for wanting to die there. That's why they have to pay people. But yeah, I don't see Russia winning this at all. If they had a chance, it was lost some time ago. It's just slaughter for the sake of slaughter. And I'm going to preface this point. All these airstrikes and attacks and drone attacks on civilians does nothing. It means nothing. It doesn't matter. And I don't mean that for Ukraine, like, oh, Ukrainian civilians don't matter. I don't mean that. I mean what Russia's doing doesn't matter. Because what they're doing isn't helping their war effort. They're just bombing off civilian houses for the sake of it. Why is it that they're not attacking full-scale railways or military outposts? Is it that the Ukrainian army is that good at hiding that they can't even find them? Or is it they're so incompetent that they can't? So the only alternative is that they could only attack civilian places. Because that's the only thing they can do. Because it doesn't matter. They can't bomb Ukraine the way America was able to bomb North Vietnam or the Allies in World War II. They can't. That's why it comes in bursts. Like, there's a couple missiles, like 1 or 2 or 3 hit some buildings with civilians. They kill civilians. More civilians hate them. But it doesn't win the war. It doesn't change the front. It doesn't do anything. They just kill people for the sake of it, and nothing changes. It's not helping that man at the front killing a random civilian way out away from the front line. It doesn't help them at all. And if the whole thing is that they want to terrorize the people, again, when has that ever worked in a bombing campaign? Like, North America literally bombed North Vietnam more than the Allies in World War II combined, and it didn't work. And if the peak of American air power couldn't do that then, what hopes does Russia, with not even a fraction of that, have just lobbing random bullcrap, was somehow able to do that? It's worthless. There's no point in this. It's worthless. Russia's efforts don't matter. They're going to stay there until 2 things happen. Either they're going to have to accept a DMZ, which Ukraine would begrudgingly would, but they would not recognize any of it. They either have to accept a DMZ, which will look bad for Russia, and Ukraine will still get supplies. It will look bad for Putin, and will stop his expansion and stuff unless he does YOLO and attacks the Caucasus, which I'm not sure, or something really bad happens to Russia, and and Ukraine can get back to stuff. Those are the only two scenarios I see. Because a complete Russian victory is out on the table. They're not able to defeat the Ukrainian military territory in total at all. They're not capable of that. They're not able to reverse the government. They're not able to do any of that. They're just killing for the sake of killing, and if history is to go by, it's not going to work out for them. They're not invincible, and they're not the Soviet Union. So I see you guys in the next round. See ya.